Chapter 10, Real Estate Taxes and Other Liens. Let's first understand our definition of what a lien is. And before we even talk about what liens are, let's go back a couple chapters. You'll remember earlier when we talked about estates, and we talked about that the owner had rights in real estate, those rights of possession, control, enjoyment, disposition. And then we said the government also has rights in these parcels, all the parcels of real estate. And we also said that other people might have rights. And we talked about easements at length and encumbrances at length. And we touched upon liens a little bit. And so we're kind of picking up on the discussion of liens a little more in depth now. So these liens are rights that other people have in our property. And these lien rights are very important because these lien rights we give other people, we give them the right to force the sale of the property because there's a debt that we owe them, and we're using our property as collateral for that debt. So a lien is a charge or a claim against the property that we give to someone that is made to enforce the payment of money that they can actually enforce by foreclosure. Typically, liens are filed with the county recorder's office. Property taxes aren't filed because they're actually automatically a lien on property through the county collector's office. So we don't really have to, the government doesn't have to file these each year. But most liens we'll find are somewhere in the county recorder's office recorded there, showing someone has the lien right on our property that to force the sale of the property if we don't owe them something. We have voluntary liens, which we create intentionally. Mortgage lien is a voluntary lien. An involuntary lien is one created by law. Of course, that'd be property taxes. We don't create it, but it's there. A statutory lien is one that is created by statute. That would be like a mechanics lien, which was passed by the Illinois legislature, giving mechanics the right to put a lien on our property if we don't pay them when they come and do work on our property and we don't pay them. An equitable lien is a lien created when parties agree in writing that a property will be held as security for a debt or other obligation. Other terms, general liens affect all property. You might think of general liens as being dangerous liens in that they affect everything that you own, all real and all personal property that you own, whereas specific liens only attach to one item of one specific parcel of real property. Priorities of liens. Illinois is kind of a race to the recorder's office. First to get there is first in right. So if you do get lien rights on a property, you want to be as close to the top as you can, so that if foreclosure does take place on to enforce any lien, the higher you are in priority, the more likelihood you are going to be able to get paid with whatever there is left from the proceeds of the sale of the property. So priority of liens is important. As a lien holder, you want to try to be as close to the top as you can, and basically to do that, you want to win the race to the recorder's office against other lien claimants. The date of the recording usually determines priority. We're going to find that with some liens it doesn't matter what the date of recording is. For instance, a property tax lien. That date is always ahead of everyone else's. Subordination agreements are where lien holders can voluntarily agree to change their order of priority if it suits them. So real estate taxes and special assessments don't have to be recorded. They're already recorded at the recorder's office, and they take priority over all other liens. Generally speaking, real estate taxes are always the first lien on property. If there's any special assessments, they're always the second lien on property. You have junior lien holders could go ahead of a superior lien if they voluntarily agreed to it by a subordination agreement. Property taxes, sometimes we call these ad valorem taxes, which means at value. They're based on the value of the property, not based on the personal income of the owner of the property, but based on the value of the property. Some people can have their property taxes reduced. Not always eliminated, but at least reduced. We have a thing called the homeowner's exemption that most homeowners can qualify for that will reduce by $6,000 the property tax valuation of the property to reduce the impact of the taxes. Senior citizens can file for exemptions. There's 2 that they're offered. Disabled persons and returning veterans. None of these are really important for you to know for the final exam or for the state exam. But you should know that there are some, as far as numbers, but you should know that there are some ways that we can get our property taxes reduced if we qualify for these exemptions. If you look at property tax process, page 175, 176, I don't think you're going to be asked too much about these on how this happens, but you might, for your own interest, just go through what the property tax process is, how the taxing bodies create a budget, and then the county collector gets these individual budgets, makes a big master budget. Then he decides how much the property tax rate is going to be in order to raise that money. They levy the tax. The collector sends the tax bills. And that's sort of the end of the process. So I don't think it's critically important stuff to know. If you want to take a quick peek at it one time, just read through the process just to get an idea what it's about. I don't think you're going to get asked many questions on how that process really works. All liens must be deliberately recorded to exist with the exception of property tax liens, and we should also say with the exception of mechanics liens. We'll see there's a bit of an exception for those. Other than that, all these liens need to be recorded. Our property taxes become a lien on January 1st of the tax lien, even though they're not paid until the following year, and they're usually paid in 2 installments. The due dates typically are June 1st and September 1st. Sometimes counties have different due dates for the taxes, or if you will, law dates for the taxes, but typically the June 1 and September 1 are the installment dates to pay our property taxes. Cook County is March 1 and August 1. Tax calculations, if you had to figure a tax bill, first you take the market value, then you take the assessed value. Most counties assessed property for tax purposes at 1/3 of market value. Cook County is a little different. Usually 33%, so we get an assessed value of $82,500 for property tax purposes. Then we multiply this thing called an equalization factor. If we want to raise assessed value in a particular township of a county, we can multiply an equalization factor that's above 1. If we want to reduce the the assessed value of property, then our equalization factor would be less than 1. So we can adjust our assessed values up or down by using this thing called an equalization factor. Equalization factors are computed by townships. The township assessors compute the equalization factor for each township. It has the effect of taking within each township of a county, adjusting the assessed value. So that's what we're going to base our taxes on, the adjusted assessed value, in this case of $84,150. If we divide it by 100, multiply by 6, the property taxes due would be $5,049. So we take the adjusted assessed value after we multiply the equalization factor, divide by 100, multiply by $6 per 100, and our tax bill is $5,049. Special assessments are taxes levied on only that real estate that has been improved somewhat. Let's say certain parcels got new sidewalks, if you will, new sewers. They may be subject to paying a special assessment because of the improvements just to their property. So when we're talking to our owners and we're listing their property, it's important not only to know what their property tax bill was and whether or not they had the ability to get any kind of reduction in their taxes as a result of those exemptions we talked about before. We want to make sure that we understand why their tax bill is what it is, so that we know new owners to the property can decide whether or not, or find whether or not they're entitled to the same exemptions. But we also want to know if there's any special assessments that apply to that property that the new owners are going to have to continue paying for. So whenever we're listing property, we need to determine how much the property taxes are that the owners are paying, how that dollar was arrived at, were there any exemptions they were entitled to that maybe new owners won't be entitled to, and whether or not there are any special assessments on the property that the new owners are going to have to continue paying. Mechanics liens are liens that are granted to contractors, laborers, material handlers, material providers whose efforts have gone into improving the home. Anyone who improves the value of property by their work or by their material is obligated to get paid by you, and if you don't pay them, we give them a lien called a mechanics lien, which gives them as mechanics the right to force the sale of the property, take the proceeds from the sale, satisfy the debt, and give you back the balance. In order to qualify for mechanics lien, it takes effect from the date of the contract, or the date the material was provided, or the date that the work began. Any of those dates is when it becomes a lien on the property. And so therefore there's a secret lien, because the mechanic has up until 4 months after the work was completed to in fact formally record the date of the mechanics lien. So you can have a secret lien from the time it was from the work began all the way up until 4 months after the completion of the work, that it was actually, you'll find it in the public records because a recording would be made. And then you have 2 years from the date of completion to take legal action. So we want to know 4 months from the date of completion to file, 2 months from the date of completion to take legal action, or you as a mechanic will lose your mechanics lien right. So we have an installation of a new kitchen on 3/7/08 is when the date was entered into, and they began, a couple of days later. So in this case, we have the contract date of 3/7. So we have the 4 months after the work was completed, which is 4/15/08 to 8/15/08 is when the lien needs to be recorded, and then we have 2 years from the date of completion for the last date for legal action. Becomes a lien. Here we have a number of liens, current property taxes, primary mortgage, second mortgage lien, judgment lien, judgment lien. We have a mechanics lien that was filed this year. Okay, well, it may have been filed this year, but the work may have started many years ago. So that mechanics lien might even change the order of priority above even a mortgage, depending when the work was began. Other liens, estate taxes, utility taxes, utility bills that need to be paid, bail bond liens, corporate franchise taxes. Those would be taxes that companies owe, just like people owe the IRS liens. Corporations own their franchise taxes. List pendants means lien pending. It's a red flag. Anytime someone starts the foreclosure process, they file a lis pendens to warn people not to purchase the property until this lien is satisfied. A commercial broker lien act, we should know that commercial brokers, real estate brokers, have the ability to put liens on property for unpaid commissions. Commercial brokers can place a lien on the property, on seller's property for unpaid commissions, but it's a very technical area. Lis pendens, lien pending, red flag. Let's do our Chapter 10 exercises in our study guide, and Chapter 10 into chapter tests.